this week we're going to be talking about the trials and tribulations of of a Vendasta partner of 7 years. It's going to be a fantastic story. Don't want to steal Simon's thunder there. And then Simon's also going to be touching on a little bit about how they've pivoted throughout COVID here. So provide some insights on that. And then next week, just so that everyone knows, next week we're going to be talking more about the 1S and the 3Ps, which is snapshot report, prospecting, presentations, and packaging. So that's to come next week. And then the third week, we're going to be talking more about client success and after the sale, what happens then? So onboarding, retention, upselling, setting those expectations so that everyone can be successful, and really leveraging the Vendasta platform. And so that's what to expect with this mini series. And really to do the best job, we didn't want to pack everything into one series, one session. So we're going to be stretching it out over 3 sessions. But today we're going to be focusing on the story and just talking about getting started and growing and scaling. And so before I pass it off to Simon, we just wanted to start with that the little game that we do at the beginning. So I'll ask a few questions of everyone, but for right now, if everyone can just turn off their cameras, and then I'll ask a question, and if that question pertains to yourself or your agency, then turn your camera on. So if I ask a question and it's a yes, then just pop your camera on. So who here with us today is just a startup partner, just on the startup level? So really just getting into the Vendasta platform. Nice. So a few people there. Awesome. And so you can keep your video, or pop your videos off actually. So everyone turn their video off. Now who here is on the next level up? A basic partner, or the new essentials partner, who is not quite using marketing services yet, but leveraging the platform and the marketplace there. Okay, so a few more people. Nice. And so those are. And so pop your cameras off one more time. And now I'm a little bit interested to see who isn't a Vendasta partner yet. So who might not be a Vendasta partner, or who is on the free subscription, the free tier? Nice. So everyone here is starter and up. Fantastic. So everyone can turn their cameras back on. Pop mine back on there. Thanks everyone for playing along there. Really appreciate it. So yeah, that's what we're expecting to cover for the next few sessions. But I'd love to pass it off to Simon here to introduce himself and Social Ordeals and let us know a little bit about their journey with Vendasta. And the floor is yours, Simon.
Yeah, awesome. Andrew, you don't mind if I know I'm truly not presenting a deck today, but do you mind if I just share a few slides kind of showing what we'll speak to today and what we'll speak to in the next few weeks? Is that cool?
Absolutely. You should be able to just share your screen there.
Okay. So let me know if this looks
nice. Yeah, we can see your deck there. I can see it.
Cool. Well, good morning and good afternoon to some of you. Like Andrew mentioned, Simon Papadopoulos with Social Ordeals. Hope everybody is safe, and I know most of us are grinding through this tough time, and these Conquer Local sessions are pretty amazing when we can all share just meaningful experiences and information with one another. So appreciate Andrew inviting me onto this. Also Andrew and Mel and a lot of the partner success people I've had at Vendasta in the past do a pretty amazing job And it's a pretty tough job, and I've done that job. You know, I came from Vendasta back in the day. I'll speak to that a little bit. But God knows most of these poor people's sometimes come out of meetings with me feeling like a punching bag. But in the end, you know, Vendasta's built an amazing platform like no other. And we really appreciate your work, Andrew, and everybody else in terms of success. My contact info is there. I'm going to be sharing it at the end. I know there are going to be some conversations where we'll need to take them offline, or we might be jumping into the next few weeks of topics, but that's okay. I'm always, please feel free to contact me. There are no stupid questions. Like I mentioned, just to give you a little bit of background, I was born and raised in good old Canada. I was definitely a tech geek. Worked at Vendasta for quite a few years, loved the culture, loved the platform. And while I was there, you know, I just noticed that a few agencies just got it. And I put that in parentheses. It's like, in quotes, it's like they just got it. They were moving up in rankings. And I just had the feeling that it was time to adjust and even personally do one of those pivots and hop onto a different rocket ship. And Chris over here at Social Ordeals truly needed somebody in operations and needed to take the next step. So today we're going to talk about trials and tribulations. I'm super excited actually to not only speak about the person, but Chris is going to be in the room with me today. So you'll have him on the line as well. And truly this was all triggered after a few prospects who were interested in the Vendasta platform asked to speak to a partner, and they wanted a one-on-one conversation without Vendasta on the line, and you know, and not to be biased, and which I truly, it just triggered something which I just thought it was brilliant and smart. And after having those few conversations, I was like, well, why wouldn't more people ask that? Because the questions that I got on that quick 10 to 15 minute phone call were not dumb questions. There's just no dumb questions. And so I believe in the coming year that Vendasta will be welcoming that more and more. And Andrew and I will have further discussions, and I was extremely happy to oblige. So also, I just want to mention that, you know, Chris and I never think of another agency as competition. Honestly, we joke to Vendasta, you know, quite often that you can populate our office building with Vendasta agencies and we'd be still willing to help them and communicate with them. You know, there is endless amount of business out there. And I just think this was great for the next 3 weeks to kind of speak to any sort of questions on and go through all the struggles and pivoting and pains and whatnot to help you folks. Next week, like Andrew mentioned, want to rip through the snapshot report, not really breaking it down, but just explaining how we utilize it, how we put it in our back pocket, explaining how we've packaged our solutions in bundles, how we prospect, how we sell, how we present. So I think next week will be fantastic. I've had a lot of questions on a few of those calls with future Vendasta partners. And then the following week, we'll talk about after the sale. So let's talk about onboarding, servicing, curating, how we get the client engaged. And then also there's more selling to be done. And I think a lot of agencies forget about that. So we'll speak to items that we can upsell and grow.
Hey, and Simon, just really quickly, I just wanted to let everyone know that, you know, we are recording this session and we will be sharing the recording in the community afterwards. So just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that as we get into it. But yeah, go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, just Andrew covering his liability there. Just kidding. So we've heard Brendan King, CEO of Vendasta, mention the story. Chris and I, we laugh at that story because Brendan tells it in the way that, you know, we've got an agency that literally started off from the couch and having his potato chips. Chris likes to say he doesn't like potato chips, so that part of the story is not true. But Chris and his partner had sold a few tech companies prior to 2013 and came across Vendasta. And ultimately, they were young retired gents at that point, and they hopped on the Vendasta train. And you know, we're going to speak a little bit to that story. It started in 2013. There are trials and tribulations of figuring out how you package this, finding prospects, how you speak to those prospects, how you sell those prospects, scaling, utilizing Vendasta's digital agency in those first 2-3 years, and then in the end becoming what we call a big boy agency, and you know, start building our own teams and whatnot. So let's start with initial challenges. And I definitely see this through a lot of agencies in terms of packaging. Had some great conversations already just by being in that Conquer Local academy with a few partners where, you know, they seem to over package or under package. And we've taken over some books of business, and I go in and I see that, you know, an agency had 40 or 50 clients, and I'll snoop through and they'll have one sliver of service turn on, and it will be like a customer voice. And I'm just stunned, because if I run a snapshot report on that person, their listings look like crap. They definitely need help. They need to generate more reviews, etc. So I understand the customer voice, but why wasn't listings being sold? I can honestly tell you, we've got hundreds and hundreds of businesses in the Vendasta platform. Andrew can confirm this. We do not have a business that does not have reputation management turned on, that does not have customer voice turned on, and that does not have full listing solutions. That's your base foundation. And there isn't a business out there, and you'll hear it. You know, I'll speak to a business. I spoke to one yesterday. They'll be like, oh, you know, my listings are good. And I always hear that I'm good. And we got to be blunt, and we got to tell these people, like, you're not so good. You do need help. You know, this is what I see from my end. So the best part when I hire salespeople and train them, in the end, the one thing I hear quite a bit is like, wow, you know what's great about this, Simon, is that every single business needs us. And truly, I don't care if they're an online e-commerce business. I don't care if they're an association. I don't care if it's just Tom's Hardware shop down the street, or if they've got 700 locations across the US or across Canada or across the UK. They need us. So the other challenge is that beginning point is the hardest. And Chris just stepped into the room here, and he can quickly speak to that. But that beginning point is hard because people need to trust your agency. You need to have clients to show off. You need to kind of know what's going to happen, and what's the proof of performance, and how not to oversell. So I think those challenges are kind of the biggest in the beginning, and were the biggest for Chris. Pricing, etc., with those packages. So I just want to quickly, before we even let Chris, since he walked into the room and we're being all casual here, I don't have a formal presentation, everyone, as I was asked not to do that. But if anybody wants to put up their hand, and maybe some of those initial agencies that are starting out, what do you feel your challenges are?
Yeah. Love to hear from you. David, do you have a comment there?
Yeah, well, the biggest challenge prospecting, it goes back to the comment that everyone needs us. There's absolutely no doubt. Everyone needs us. And I think we've got a good packaging, that includes listing builder and reputation management, all those items.
Yeah.
The hardest part is, what is the initial sales? I don't even want to use the word sales pitch, but you've got to get somebody interested and get an email address so you can start the process with a free trial. And I have the hardest time getting started on that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any? The people that give me their email addresses, it becomes easy. They buy because they see it. But it's the other businesses that if you run a listing builder and they're at 5% or 25%, they're terrible.
Yeah.
But how do you get their attention to obtain their email address and get them to look at the free trial and actually do something with it?
Mm-hmm.
Get started, get connected. That seems to be the log jam.
Yeah, that's a great question, David. And I know that we'll be getting into that in detail next week. But Simon, do you have any initial comments there?
Yeah, like Chris just stepped into the boardroom here, so I definitely love him to handle this. When we hear the word free trial, we haven't really utilized or
we don't do free trials.
So what do you do, Chris?
All right, free trials are out. Everybody know that free trials are out. Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hey, Chris.
If you're cold calling, obviously cold calling is an art that is difficult in today's world. So what we ultimately have done in the past is the clients that you have sold, start utilizing those clients to help propel you, showing examples. I'll give you a quick example. We've got a ton of veterinarians on board with us, and when we first got into that vertical, it was tough trying to get that doctor on the phone, trying to get that practice manager to get the doctor on the phone, and the practice manager is just relaying back that great sales pitch to the doctor, but they're obviously not showing the value that we can show as salesmen. So ultimately what you want to be able to do is get that snapshot and just tell them, what do you got to lose by getting onto a screen share with us and turning around and looking at your online web presence, and let's look at the highs and lows of where you stack up to your competitors. And I've got a few recordings out there on how I pitch, and I'm more than happy to share that with a lot of you partners, where you guys can actually see a screen share with one of my pitches, to really kind of understand the journey I take the customers down. Get away from free trial. Free trial does nothing for you. It cheapens your product. And at the end of the day, those guys that are looking for free trials are ultimately not realizing that this isn't an overnight process. This is something that you've got to be dedicated in. Give me a year of your time, and we go from there. If you already have clients, I do have to tell you that 60 to 70% of our business is referral based. So we offer incentives to our current clients to bring a client to the table. And if our package is $399 or $349 for Social Plus, which includes reputation management, listing distribution, listing syndication, review management, and then posting twice a week to social media feeds, we would turn around for a lot of our clients and say, hey, you know what? If you refer one of your buddies to us, or one of your friends to us, or a business that you know, and they close, we'll give you a month free. And so by doing that, I had one guy bring 15 businesses to the table, and they all closed. So he literally got 15 months of free service in the platform. And once you have them in the platform and you're performing the services properly, and Vendasta's system is phenomenal. Listing distribution, I believe, is the best product that Vendasta has. Once those citations start building, your clients are going to start seeing growth. And when you're showing them that reporting, then it's pretty easy. I've got clients of mine. My first client I ever sold back in 2010, 2011 is still a client today. So I think, it's all about packaging your products, not trying to, downplay it. If you're selling a package for $300-400 a month to help them with their web presence, that's not a big feat for them. But I also have to say, during this time in COVID, we really want to make sure that, look for recession-proof businesses. Don't go after businesses that, are on the brink of closing down or can't do things right now. I would really focus on, those types of businesses that we know they're going to be around long-term, HVAC companies, things of that nature.
So basically, knocked off 2 weeks in 10 minutes. So we're all done here, folks.
That is awesome, Chris. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you very.
I know we kind of answered that, but any more questions there, David?
No, that's very helpful. I would love to be able to listen to Chris's recording. I don't know how to do that, but
I'll set it up with Andrew.
Yeah.
And we'll get you guys a recording. I just got to go through and make sure I give you my best one. No, I'm kidding. I've got a few that I can send over and kind of just take you guys down the journey of how we see it. And I'm very blunt with the clients on the phone. I had a very big opportunity the other day present itself, and I'm talking to the CEO of the company, and they've got 300 locations or something. And one thing that they were talking about was they didn't have Google My Business pages for each one of their locations. And so, and they were like, we're just going to do a Google My Business page in each city. And I have no problem telling, that entire board that is a horrible strategy. Because of the fact that, and some people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that on the phone. But you're coming in to be their trusted advisor. So if you don't start off that conversation with you knowing everything, and that they can turn to you for all of that, you got to instill that confidence in that customer from day one that you know what you're doing. And I'm very blunt with clients, and I think that helps the selling process because and I told them, don't take any offense. They're like, none taken. Thank you for the advice. So they want to hear that. They want to be led down that road because they don't understand it. All these businesses will act like they understand what's going on, but they're focused on their website, and the website's 14% of the game. So let's talk about the rest of it. Citations. Let's talk about listings. Let's talk about reviews. Your reviews are more important than your website today. People don't realize that. So, I'll definitely get that recording over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to mute now.
Nice. Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Any other
that
questions?
Is fantastic. So I know that I'm super excited for next week now. Hey, Mitch, let's do one more question because I know that Simon has more to present. But Mitch.
Yeah. So when the ones that you don't have referrals for, how do you do it? Do you do direct selling?
We do. So
okay.
Go ahead.
And if you do direct selling, since you do it, what do you look for when you hire salespeople? Quill, do you hire Quill guys?
Yeah,
There's a challenge.
Well,
or Verizon Wireless.
I like this question too because it kind of, maybe if you can touch on, what do you look for in salespeople? But talking about the trials and tribulations, growing your agency to that big boy agency and adding salespeople, what was that process like? Maybe touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I'll talk about that briefly real quick. So I started out with just getting those telemarketer style people in here calling, and that was a complete waste of time. Even though I was getting them for $15-16 an hour with some commission, and have a half a dozen of them calling away, waste of time. I decided that I wanted to go for that senior, that older sales rep in his mid 30s to mid 50s that may have life didn't work out the way they planned or whatever, but they were phenomenal salespeople. So this is the type of sale that you can teach people how to sell the product, but you can't teach confidence. And that's the most important aspect of these type of sales. When I go into my calls, I'm very confident, and I'll go toe to toe with anybody in the SEO website, listing world, web presence world, and I'm very confident in that. And you don't get that from those 25-year-olds. Those are the ones that you may put them on a phone and have them dial for dollars in a market that you've seen some great success in, but you need those seasoned sales reps. And the last sales rep that I brought to the table was actually selling rocks for 10 years. And he was basically going around to construction companies selling sand and things from the guy that owned the mountain, selling $1 million deals, very confident in who he is. But that process of training them, you have to keep in the back of your mind that a sales rep is not going to learn how to sell this product and be confident with it in your first 3 months. It took us 3 to 6 months to really get them to understand and watch and learn and study videos of my recordings and things like that for them to be able to build the confidence. And once they get that confidence, I've noticed that my older sales reps do way better than my younger. The younger still are trying to figure out, their place in the world. Your sales reps are in their mid 30s, 40s, and 50s are family men.
But the other thing we have in terms of another challenge, if we go a little further with those, now I know Chris thinks I'm older, obviously, I'm up in my 40s, but that the older gents think that they need to kind of keep in touch and keep that relationship. So now we're trying to break that, to be like, hey, sold, move on, explain to the client they're in phenomenal hands and they're going to be taken care of by our client success management team, and let go of it. And so just because they've kind of been programmed to kind of keep that relationship, keep in touch, it's like, we need them to carve a sale, move on, carve a sale, move on. And sometimes, they tend to want to keep the relationship, and then that bogs them down in terms of time. So that's another challenge beyond.
That's a great point. And I remember we chatted about that yesterday, Simon. So I think we'll be touching on that a little bit more in week 3.
Yep.
After the sale.
Hey,
That's
can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't know this was going to be a video call, and I'm actually like on my Peloton bike right now while I'm listening in. So
Wow, we all feel fat and terrible now. Thanks.
All right. Sorry, but here's my question. So we signed up with Vendasta, gosh, I don't know, like sometime last year, as a way to scale our company. It's my husband and I started a website and marketing agency like 5 or 6 years ago. And so we have a bunch of people signed up on the listing and reviews. I gave a presentation on it a year ago, and we just got a ton of people signed up on it. And then I think like my hesitancy is like, we have a really good reputation. We're very much in a niche, that we have built a great reputation with, and we need to sell some more of the services. Like our clients need like more of the social media posting and some of those more like hands-on kind of services. But I feel like we have such a good reputation. It's a very tight, close group that we're in. And I'm like, this is going to sound really dumb, but I'm like scared that Vendasta is not going to do as good a job as we do in servicing the clients. And so I have like really big back off on signing them up for some of these new services.
That's definitely a hard question to answer. I mean, in terms of scaling, you do have to let go. That's why you got Vendasta in your backyard. That was one of Chris's biggest things, was he scaled with Vendasta. He used that digital agency for years, but there came a time where he knew he had to start building out his own teams and managing it, because we just put our own little special touch on things, or we've got our own little niche way of curating and handling and servicing. So it's a tough question to answer in terms of your trust in letting the client be managed by a white labeled digital agency. But I mean, that's the way I believe you got to scale.
I want to add something to that. I think that listings are great. Vendasta's listing distribution, like I said, is I believe the best product that they have. Listing distribution is another phenomenal product, but not as powerful as listing distribution.
Sorry,
Listing syndication is a great product, but not as great as listing distribution. You have to post. You have to post, and you've got to get your claws into that customer on posting, because what a lot of people don't realize out there is that by posting to Facebook, Google My Business, and posting on that page, I think is the most, and that's Google My Business is 25% of the reason why you're ranked in local search. So you want to do everything you possibly can do on that Google My Business page by having questions on there for clients, making sure your hours are on there, posting content, listing products and services, optimizing that page. But if you're not posting to that page, you're going to have a slow creep of climbing up in that local search. At the end of the day, what I try to tell everybody is that I don't like to pitch search engine ranking. I think it's a bad way to pitch this product. You can't do that, because then you're setting expectations and that's out of your hands. There's nothing you can do with that. But what I try to teach them is that if you're doing your listings and you're taking care of your reviews and you're being proactive and you're posting content to your social media feeds, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all at the same time, and you're doing everything that Google is asking you to do on their Google My Business page, Google is going to reward you and move you higher up in local search. So I believe that you're hindering yourself, to answer your question. I believe you're hindering yourself by being scared to ask them to take over social posts. Not that you're taking it over to the point where I still think that the businesses need to have their own personal touch on there. Like a dentist office still needs to post the doctor's birthday and they're blowing out candles, but you still gotta, once again, post that. We post interesting content that's relevant to the business. It may be, for a dentist, an article from the Mayo Clinic that brushing your teeth is good for your overall health that was shared 100,000 times when it first came out. You start posting content like that and pounding it into Google's head and everybody else's head, hey, we're relevant to this content, it's going to move you into other local searches. And the one thing I'll tell you on this is the analogy I give. Dentists only have so many categories that you can go into in Google My Business. You've got dentist, you may have implants, and you may have cosmetic dentistry. But there's no Google category for teeth whitening. But if you type in teeth whitening into Google in a local market, you're going to see locals. Well, how do the people get there? If your website's only 14% of the action and you're talking about a paragraph on your website, that's not going to get you ranked into those locals for teeth whitening in that market. You got to post content about teeth whitening on Google My Business and the rest of your social media feeds and continue pounding it with hashtags about teeth whitening, and that's going to get them into that local search result. So to answer your question, I know it was a long-winded answer. 100% without question, lose the fear. And, you know, I've seen, you know, Vendasta does a phenomenal job on posting. I've seen a lot of clients that are utilizing them. I'm well aware of exactly what they do, and you got to lose the fear and jump in, because you're hurting your customer by not doing that.
So can I ask a further question to that person? Sorry, I couldn't remember your name, but are you doing posting on your end, or is this something?
Yeah. So what's happened is we're tapped out. My husband and I have maxed out as much as we can. Like, we're maxed out in terms of our time. I hired a girl locally who is who's doing postings and everything for us, but it's just like, you can't, you know, we have to scale. Like that's right.
And like, this guy right over here was doing the exact same thing. So, who's the one posting for your first 10 or 20 clients?
But, you know, this is dating me a little bit, but when I started the agency, my first 30 clients, and I did start this agency on a couch, and I wasn't eating chips though. The first 30 clients I sold. This is before I consider all of you agencies that are just starting up spoiled, because when I started back in 2010, 2011, there was no listing distribution. I was one of the first partners to try listing distribution. There was no Listing Sync Pro. There was none of that. So we literally had to sell the clients. And for us to get that green check mark in reputation management, I had to go out and manually create listings for every single one of those. I would have to spend a day going and finding articles for every single one of those 30 clients to be able to post out. So I know the challenges there, and it's tough, but you've got to figure out a system where you don't necessarily want to bog yourself down being a smaller agency or an agency that's starting off by coming in and doing custom creatives. Don't get yourself into that game. It's not gonna.
We can't, like, we're really, like, we have over 100 clients. Like, we're really, we're pretty much rocking it. Like we just had we also do e-commerce websites. We just had one of our biggest months ever since we started. And we sign everybody up on listings and reviews. But they need more, they want more. And we have a really active Facebook group where, we have tons of followers, tons of engagements. I do live shows in our Facebook group. So we're in a really good position. But I think at the end of the day, I think what I just really needed you to hear you say is, like, Vendasta is really good quality with their people. Cause I feel like I'm hiring and signing up these people who know, like, and trust me, and I'm going to hand them over to someone else to service. And that I'm like, oh my God, what if they do a crap job? But I guess you just have to go for it and say, here you go, and keep an eye on it.
You don't also have to jump off the deep end. Like, try them out. That's what I would say. I mean, I would never hand over all 100 of my, clients over. So give them a shot, hand over maybe some of your lower touch ones, or a handful that you deem best.
So I think this is a great conversation. And Colleen, would it be all right if we facilitate that introduction between you and the team at Social Ordeals?
Oh yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm
No
sorry.
worries.
I never was on one of your calls before, and I saw this come up.
Hey, no worries. This is actually what the community is about, right? Engaging with other partners about, what's working, how to position things. And, if I were to comment one thing there, I like Simon's idea, just start with a few, and see how it works, get used to the process, right? Because that's going to change a little bit. And, I heard something that Chris said that I really liked, the do it with me strategy. I see that as the highest winning strategy with social media, because you can't be there for all the moments, right? Whether Vendasta is doing it or you're doing it yourself. So that can be a challenge. And by doing it with them, we see that in the churn study, those do it with me strategies with the clients, they increase engagement and retention as well. So, being able to fill some of those posts with those, high authority articles and educational pieces, it's a great way to go about it. But then, training them and getting them into the platform can be a great way to get those really high delight factors with them. But Colleen, we'll be sure to make that introduction. Thank you for your question and your contribution there.
Okay, thanks.
I know we're going to run out of time here in 10 or 15 minutes, so I just wanted to put my list of musts, and Chris and I can comment, and then we can even ask a few more questions too, and open the conversation. Definitely, I steal that top line from Jackie Cook from back in my Vendasta days. I think it's really important for agencies and Vendasta partners to drink your own champagne. And what I mean there is, if we're on the phone all day preaching about, hey, your reputation matters, and hey, your listings got to look good, and hey, your socials got to be active, and hey, you got to come up on search, and all that stuff, then you better be doing that for yourselves. And I truly believe, like, on those first few calls with some of those prospects, and having those conversations, the very first customer or client, I believe that you'd be putting in your Vendasta account is yourself. And I hate seeing, and it's tough from the beginning, don't get me wrong. It's not like you're going to be able to go out there and get 100 reviews on an agency if your agency is a few months old or even 5 or 6 months old. But along the way, you really need to be drinking your own champagne. Point 2, like Chris has mentioned, stop letting the client drive the conversation. I try and teach, and we try and teach our salespeople that over and over again. And people really need to not be afraid. Like, you know, you got to be direct, you got to be poised. And unfortunately, you're just going to tell them, hey, listen, this is going to be critical. That snapshot report's critical. Some of the things we're going to say today is critical, but ultimately we can help you in the end. Point 3, stop selling $30 slivers of stuff. Like some of these agencies we've taken over business from, like I mentioned, when I just saw one customer voice product or these little slivers were just reputation management turned on. I was like, how is this possible when these folks need like those 3 or 4 crucial foundational elements? So you need to have a foundational or a couple foundational packages. They need us. I love that point 4, no excuses. And we can barely see my notes here. Sorry, Chris. They need us. And, you know, they tell us they look good online. And some of our salespeople or some agencies say that it's too hard to sell at this time. So, you know, what do we say to that?
We just had our biggest week. So, we sold, a good number of clients this week, quite a few websites, just launched a huge advertising deal. Listen, April was tough. The beginning of May was tough. But I think people are starting to, get used to their new normal. And that's why I say focus on businesses that are still going to thrive in a recession. Go after your doctors, your dentists, your veterinarians, your HVAC companies, people still need to get their, ACs repaired. I would focus on businesses like that right now and not focus on the what if businesses that, may be trying to launch a new product right now. I don't know if that's necessarily the time to do that in this economy and where we're currently at. So my thoughts would be just focus on recession-proof businesses.
And our clients that have been on with us, man, so many of those multi-locations and so many businesses came back to us, and we're so thankful they had our platform through this time, because it was so easy for them to manage, getting out all those COVID messages through customer voice, getting just that business profile being in there, especially for those multi-locations. They understood the value after this tough time. Also, we got to remember that a lot of these businesses are tight. Yeah, they're tight on their money, but they need us because they need to ensure all the advertising monies that they're spending. And they're shifting. I was speaking to a flooring company the other day, and he's like, hey, Simon, I usually have this amount of money I set aside for going to this home show and having a booth and doing this. And we've landed, that sparked something in my head. So I started going after more companies like that do go to a lot of shows. And it's like, hey, how are you transitioning? Because we could really help you with your digital advertising and moving some of those monies over and still getting you some business. So again, going to my 5th point, we're all pivoting. It's definitely not business as normal. There's a new norm, but Vendasta, us agencies, clients, everybody's pivoting. And stealing that 6th line there, that now is the time and the urgency, but we got to be positive, which I've stolen from Michael at Vendasta, but it is the time, and people have not realized this. They've realized this now more than ever. And I explain it like a NASCAR race where, this might be a pit stop for your business if you're down, but it's time to get that vehicle all shiny and in shape and ready to go and coming out of that lane like full speed ahead. Otherwise, people are going to be ahead of that damn race. So why wouldn't we be firing on all cylinders and be ready for it? We understand that there's a new norm and shifting and pivoting and whatnot. So what else? Evolving. Stole this slide from Vendasta as well. and we're all evolving. And just like, that agency just mentioned that it was a busy month. Websites, we've never sold more websites in the last month than ever in the history of our agency, for so many years. But people understand that they still need a good WordPress. They still need a good site, and they still need to look good there. No excuses. And of course, let's talk about, there've never been more searches. People are from home, they're still making these decisions. They're searching for products, they're still spending money. And it's really, really important that our prospects and clients understand that. Voice has sure changed search quite a lot. There's probably never been more voice searches in the last 90 days than any previous 90 days. So people are utilizing voice more and more, probably not in their vehicle because they're probably not driving as much, but definitely on their Google Homes and their Alexas. And the one thing I find, and studies tell us with voice, that there's two factors. One factor, it's more of a descriptive search. If people are looking for a local grocery store, they're not typing into a box grocery store near me. They might be talking about a local grocery store that's open till 8 p.m. or that accepts American Express or is handicap accessible. And, it's more of a descriptive search when we're doing voice. And then number two, it usually populates one answer. So the person at the top is making a heck of a lot of money. So that's where we need to thrive and make our clients, bring them to the top of that search as best as we can. And of course, like I'm saying there, listings reputations have never mattered more. People are still going through that customer journey, like Vendasta has told you, and how we preach over and over again. Let's take some questions here. I know we kind of blew through a lot, and again, we've got 2 following weeks that we're going to speak to. Next week's snapshot report and the 3 Ps, like the packaging, prospecting, presenting, and then the week after after the sale of onboarding, curating, engagement, and upselling. So Andrew, do you want to lead some discussions or some questions? Or
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and thanks very much, Chris and Simon, for opening up and talking about Social Ordeals and kind of how you guys do things. I think it's very insightful for everyone on the line. I'm sure somebody has some questions. I'd just like to open it up to Dave Paulson. I can see you waving your hand there. We'd love to hear from you.
When you talk voice search, does your SEO and all your other vehicles, does that correlate to voice search as well, or is there a specific other area we need to input the information?
no, I believe, like Chris has mentioned, that it's like a full engine spinning. So I believe, running and greasing all those parts is super important to come up on that search. There's no doubt that items like Yext and listing syndication and listing distribution, all that definitely excel you. But absolutely, their business profile is very, very important. And again, going back to that Google My Business profile is really, really important. And like Chris mentioned, posting to that thing might seem like, oh, great, 8 people saw that Google My Business post, but I truly believe there's some SEO value definitely behind putting your products and services in a Google My Business listing and posting articles. It definitely makes you authoritative. If Simon's Hardware Store had 37 articles on how to clean your gutters, over the last 10 years, and somebody's searching some type of service and whatnot, I'm pretty sure Simon's Hardware Store is going to come up there. So I think it's just greasing every little part. I don't think it's just one magical little item, Dave.
And Simon, that posting to Google My Business, I know you've gone toe to toe with some other social marketing platforms, but that's a pretty big differentiator.
Oh yeah, we go up against Hootsuite, and again, folks, I don't know if again, I don't know your experience on social marketing, but Vendasta's platform is one of the only ones that we've got that ability. So we absolutely love it, and we make it mandatory. And I know a lot of agencies and digital agencies believe that only an offer should be posted and whatnot. No, I truly believe articles should be posted there, and I truly believe that there's authoritativeness behind that. So it's not just about offers.
Nice. I can see one other hand raised here. Chris Kazer. That's how you pronounce your last name?
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris, we'd love to hear from you.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
we can hear you there.
Yep, absolutely. And that was a great stab at it, Andrew. It's actually Kazer, like razor, but with a K, but I'll go answer to anything. So that works just fine. Simon, hey, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it. The second part of my question, I think you're going to cover next week, but your top salesperson or a top salesperson, once they get into their groove and they get past their learning curve, say 2-3 months, and they're really hitting their stride, how many new accounts would you expect a top producer to be able to generate on a monthly basis? And then the follow-up to that is on what's their best prospecting method? And I get the referral part of it, but I'm talking about, is it walk-in cold call? Is it telephone cold call or email cold call? Or what do you think is their best prospecting method?
I'll let you answer this after I answer this. Chris's expectations are always a lot higher. Like he brings guys in, he's like, you're going to be rocking in 90 days. And I'm like, I literally kind of sometimes turn away out of that meeting. I definitely believe once you've got a person in their groove, you know, if they're bringing in, I know Chris is going to increase this number. I would say between 5 to 7 deals a month is a pretty good average. We've got some rock stars, you know, we've got some guys who reach for some whales, and it takes some time out of their schedule and whatnot to prospect some whales. But I don't know what you believe that number is.
Yeah, I think it's right there. It's you know, 6 to 8. I'm comfortable with the sales rep. I base their deals they do based off the contract that, you know, has been signed. We know that our attrition on customers as far as falling off is very minimal. So our average life of a customer, you know, we average that customer knowing they're going to be here for 3 or 4 years at minimum. So 6 to 8 is a really good number. If they hit that, I'm very comfortable. As far as prospecting, we try to stay away from cold calling. It's a waste of time. What we like to do is if we find a particular product, whether it's a Vendasta SEO product, whether it's you know, a client that's ranking really high, we'll put together, you know, some statistics without mentioning who the company is, and email out certain businesses with those results, masking whoever the business is. So do an image with that and put together a message, you know, asking them if their rankings are comparison. That's one way they do it. The other way we do it is, you know, finding, you know, guys that are either in the, you know, finding that partnership, finding that, you know, whether it's, I've never used the Chamber of Commerce, so I know a lot of people talk about that. You know, I won't talk about that, but finding that guy that's selling all the manufacturers to all the window covering companies in Southern California, and start looking at those type of areas, and then offering them a piece of the action. One thing that we did in the beginning was we'd go to all the hosting companies that were hosting websites and say, hey, we'd like to, you know, cut a partnership with your company. We know that you're charging $9.99 to host a website. What if we turned around and did a partnership where you email blast out all of your people that are hosting with you? They close with us, we give you a 10% of the pie or 20% of the pie, depending on what they were sold. But say 10% of the pie on a $300 deal, now we've just quadrupled what they're making on the hosting by simply sending an email to their current clients. So I would really kind of stay away from cold calling. Your email is more powerful.
Walking into businesses, we get some sales guys that are, Chris, that are really good at just walking into businesses and dropping off a business card, plain and simple. But yeah, I believe like we've transitioned to partnerships quite a bit, and you know, associations. Sometimes those are bigger whales and take time to close. But cold calling is really, really tough.
And I don't know, Andrew, if you could share with everybody, if you want to, that last Vendasta con down in San Diego, I did a little workshop.
He is going to share that.
And if he shares that, that's going to give you some really good numbers on, I've tried everything from email marketing to press one in the beginning. I've tried everything, and all the statistics of what we've tried, everything has worked. It may have been a higher cost per acquisition to do that. You know, we've been selling in the UK now, so we're trying some new things out there. But I would turn around and take a look at that and kind of base your numbers off of that. I put together my statistics of exactly how every program I've tried has worked. So, you know, Andrew will get that out to everybody.
Andrew, before you share that, I just want, thanks guys for that great answer. Just a quick follow up to that. I assume that 10% that you were giving the referral partner that was making $9 per month, and now you're maybe giving them 10% of the 300, let's say you're charging. That's an ongoing residual for them as a partnership, month to month, I assume. Yeah. And then the second part is your reps that are doing 6, 8, or 10 deals per month, the gross billing, if you don't mind me asking, the gross monthly billing on average, what are they signing the accounts for? Is it 300,
so
500?
I would say the per average sale per month, probably $300 to $400 a month is probably the average. It might be even a little more because some people come out of the gate. I should know that number. I would guesstimate is 400 a month. Chris.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Nice.
And that's just a package, just so you know. That's not no add-on packages. You know, when we first started selling Vendasta, we didn't have an agency. We strictly sold Vendasta products, and I think Vendasta thought I was crazy when I did that. And we put together packages, whether it be a social basic, where it would be your listings and access to social marketing and access to the review management tool, or like a social plus package that included social basic with postings to your social media feeds twice a week. And that package we sell in that $300 to $400 range.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for the questions there, Chris, and for the response, Chris and Simon. This was a fantastic session. You know, we're a few minutes over, but you know, I hope that's okay for everybody. And you know, just to follow up, to prepare for next week for the snapshot report, prospecting, packaging, and presenting. You know, Chris, we will be sharing your talk from the Conquer Local conference down in San Diego last year. So we'll pop that into the thread in the community, and then we'll also, you know, make sure that we have the podcast that you were on, so everyone can hear what your favorite chips are to enjoy on the couch there. So, I'm betting they're Doritos. I'm a Doritos guy myself. All right, but that was a great introduction. Thanks for sharing, Simon and Chris. I know a lot of value for everybody on the call, and looking forward to the next 2 sessions. So, you know, everyone have a great weekend. You know, stay safe, stay healthy, and you know, we do have 2 other community sessions happening today. So one of them is the Think Tank with Dennis Yu, that's happening in a couple of hours. And then this evening, we actually have a special CEO roundtable event as well, where we'd like to invite our partners to just connect with our executives. You know, we'll make sure to pop that link into the thread in the community as well. So come and join us. Our CEO, Brendan King, and CCO, George Leith are going to be on the call. And so it's a place that we'd like to invite you to come and chat, ask questions, talk about challenges, you know, just like we do in the community. So, you know, let's give it up for Simon and Chris. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time.
To all the U.S., to all of our American friends, have a great and safe Memorial Day long weekend. And please feel free to get in touch and stay safe.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Thank you.